Okay, so we're just going to get right to the endings and all the controversies. The fight, the Reylo controversy, and Rey calling herself Rey Skywalker at the end. Now, the fight itself is pretty uninteresting. I mean, Palpatine looks great, the set looks great, and the Palpatine threat, it kind of makes sense. So he threatens that if Rey kills him in anger, he will transfer his essence into her body. And some of that is in canon, that the Sith do transfer their essence. But they don't really resolve it because, she does kill him. And the attack is very anticlimactic. He just shoots lightning, she blocks it, he uses the lightsabers to have the lightning strike him back, and his body explodes. And he doesn't attempt to transfer his essence. Now, apparently there were some cut scenes where he did try to do this, but when he did it, the Jedi Ghost forced him back into the Netherworld. But if you just see the film, it's very, very confusing. So it's like, okay, was that threat a complete lie? Or did they have another script and they just kept rewriting things? So it just feels very, very confusing of how or why Palpatine is vanquished. And then we get into that Rey and Kylo share a kiss, but it's pretty strange. So you get the basic point that Rey dies because she's expended herself just to defeat Palpatine. And Ben is going to redeem himself, and he's going to transfer his life to her, and that's foreshadowed with the Force healing and Force transport powers and all that. But as people have said, like, well, wait a minute, okay, fine. So he revives her, they kiss, he dies, but she lives. Now, I think you can explain it because she's a Sith, and he's a Jedi, and Sith want to hold on to life. But it still doesn't answer that many questions because why does his body disappear? I mean, Obi-Wan disappeared because he became one with the Force. Luke disappeared in The Last Jedi, again, presumably because he becomes one with the Force. But he's dead. I mean, he's not a conscious being, so why does his body disappear? It's not really explained. As for her being a Sith, well, again, there are some rules in the prequels, and this happens to Anakin. Sith have yellow eyes. They're angry. They have deformed bodies. Rey doesn't have any of these qualities. Even the anger thing just comes up in this film. So it's like, what makes you a Sith? Now, people might say, well, in the prequels, Palpatine looked normal, but he did that because of what's known as Force concealment. And that's something he learned from Plagueis and honed over decades. It's only very slowly he was able to hide who he was. She hasn't gone through decades of training to hide her Sith nature, so again, we're still left with like a big question mark. Like, what? Why are they kissing? Why is his body disappearing? Why did he have to die? Why is she alive? None of this is really answered. It's just like, it's what it is. He's been defeated. She defeated him, and it's over. So it was very, very, very disappointing. Again, I think Ian McDermott did what he could with the role, but Palpatine just comes off really, really stupid at the end. He just says things nice in a scary voice, like, I am all the Sith. But it's like, it's just too little too late. It just doesn't matter. So now let's get to the Rey Skywalker thing. So Rey goes back to Tatooine for no reason at all, and slides down a sand dune, goes to Luke's house, and a woman asks, "Who are you?" And she says, "I'm Rey Skywalker." And this is foreshadowed when a child asks her what her last name is, and she says, "Oh, I'm just Rey." So the foreshadowing is explicit and it's paid off, but it's like, it's so dumb. Like, this alien culture just magically, coincidentally has last names like human names. They don't just use one word for their whole name. They have names. They have the same naming system. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's just incredibly absurd. Okay, so let's get into the Rey Skywalker. Now, you can kind of justify it by saying, well, she made all these sacrifices. She's like Luke. She's saving people and all that. But that's generic. She could have chosen a ton of different names and still end up with the same result. She could have still remained Rey-Palpatine. She'd still be, quote, a hero. So why call herself Skywalker? And the answer is, well, they're just trying to create this thematic unity with the other films. But that doesn't make any sense. Luke wanted to leave Tatooine. He wanted to leave Tatooine. That was the whole point. him looking at the suns was him trying to leave Tatooine, and she comes back to it. So it's like, he never had good feelings about Tatooine. Why would he? It's a slave planet. I mean, this really makes no sense whatsoever. So it's like, oh, well, you know, we should just feel good because she's staring at these suns, and she's a Skywalker. But it's all really, really confusing. And so, let's take the pro-Rey position. Like, oh, this is just about Rey regaining her power. She got her power from being a Palpatine. She gets her power from taking on another male name. It's like, what does that even mean? And you can kind of say, well, Leia's there, and Luke and Leia are both staring at her, but it's like, what is Leia's history with Tatooine? She doesn't have any connection to Luke's house or to Tatooine, or to the two sons. And so it's like, this is the whole problem with the film. They're just smushing together all this old imagery, all these old elements. Nothing is new. It's just all borrowed, and we're just supposed to look at it and be like, oh, that just makes a whole lot of sense, but it doesn't make any sense. Like when Kylo offers Rey that they'll rule the galaxy together and early in the film, it's like, that's from Revenge of the Sith. And of course, obviously, this ending is, well, this is an ending like Star Wars in 1977. Yeah, we understand, we get the reference, but it's a different context. Why would this make sense for her? Why would it make sense to these characters? It doesn't. So I can understand how some people are angry with the ending. I'm just more like, this is just dumb. This is really, really dumb. This is totally unoriginal. It makes no sense. It has no connection to the film. I mean, the war's over. Why does her name matter? I mean, this is like, they could have just named this Rise of the Last Names. I mean, literally the whole film is just about that. We're going to answer finally. Who is Rey? This is her last name. Now you know who Rey is. Rey is who her last name is. It's like, that's it? That's the ending of the Skywalker saga? Oh, we've just been chasing names the whole time. So yeah, it's just thoroughly, thoroughly disappointing. If people want to be angry, I can understand that, but I just wasn't angry. I was just perplexed. I mean, it's just confusing. The whole final scenes are confusing. How Palpatine's power is confusing. How Kylo even gets there, confusing. It's never explained. How or why Kylo and Rey coordinate their attacks, not explained. Nothing is explained. You're just supposed to take the visual images and be like, wow, wasn't that amazing? But it's not. It's just confusing. It's confusing. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's illogical. It has no emotional resonance. It's just empty. It's really, really hollow and really, really manipulative for no reason. So yeah, it's a nice image. She's walking with BB-8 into the sun, and you're like, okay, it's over. No need to get angry or upset. It's just, it was just thoroughly, thoroughly disappointing. No thematic unity. No reason it had to happen. It's no reason they even called it Rise of Skywalker. Luke is in it for just 10 minutes, so it's like, it's just very, very disappointing and very, very distracting and in a way deceptive. But I can understand people are angry. I think the more proper response is, it's perplexing, and it was a choice, and, you know, the story's ended now. So, it's that. It's an ending. It's not a good ending, but, you know, they finally did end the whole thing. So, there's that.